prime on time. Okay, there's the right glasses. My goodness. Hello, hello. My name is Stacy Renee. I'm a mindset coach, a life on life's terms coach. Life is laughing and laughing. So it's Monday. So we're gonna have our Monday Night Live. That's what we're headed for. And we're going to be talking about self-love and self-sabotage. And so sometimes what we think we are doing as far as loving ourselves, we can rationalize and justify ourselves. I planned on doing self-love and self-sabotage, but then I noticed some of the, oftentimes, hello, five elements infinity. So, Bobby, sometimes I notice that there's a common hello. I notice there's a common thread sometimes with a lot of my clients. They would call it the collective. If anyone's ever been heard, talked about the collective. And so what this is it's a collective energy in some of our wounds. You are on time. You are. We're just getting started. In fact, you're a minute early, and I am too. I always like to come on just a few minutes early just to get this algorithm feeding. So we're talking about self-love and self-sabotage. And, at the end, I'm going to give 10 signs that fear is running your life. Not necessarily your life, but we oftentimes are running on fear and don't even realize that we're running on fear. So, I got that glare on my glasses. Somebody told me to order some glasses, non-glare glasses. I did, and they aren't 3.0s because that's what I need to be able to see. And so now I get to order another pair because I thought I was getting 3.0s. I fed 3.0s into the Amazon, but other things popped up. Does that hearts mean Kim or Angie or Pam are in the house? Who's my hearts? Sometimes I have somebody else doing hearts too. 3.0 is the strength of the glasses, and so I needed a stronger strength. I still can't see anything with these non-glare glasses here. I'm pretty sure I can't see a thing. They're apparently just, yeah, it's all blurry. It's all blurry. I can't see anything. I can see better without the non-glare, without my glasses. It still doesn't have as much of a... thank you for the hearts. Thanks, Bobby. So I appreciate that. Yes. So anyway, I'll have to order another pair of non-glare glasses. So I apologize for the glare. John London, I ordered the non-glare glasses. Did you hear that? But they're the wrong strength. So hello, hello. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is self-love versus self-sabotage. And then at the end of this, I'm going to give 10 signs that fear is running your life. Agent Achug. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So a lot of times people don't realize that, what we do in self-sabotage is we rationalize and justify self-love. Keep some green veggies. I know I do eat. I was eating veggies for days, but it's just I'm getting there. I have to have glasses now. I didn't have to have glasses for several years, but now I do. So the glare doesn't bother me. Thank you so much, John London. I appreciate that. I do have it in my diet sometimes, but not today. I didn't have green veggies. I did not. So we're going to talk about self-love and self-sabotage. And what brought this up is I decided earlier last week to do self-love and self-sabotage, but because it occurred to me that a lot of people don't know that sometimes we self-sabotage when we're actually trying to show ourselves some love because we get hurt oftentimes and we think, okay, I'm going to do this as a reaction. But a lot of times it's for those of us who don't like conflict and confrontation. So we decide self-love might be buying ourselves something nice. It might be feeding ourselves a brownie. It might be doing something like this. Hello, Soldier's Life. Hi, Andres and Maria Villanueva. And so sometimes we think that self-love is nurturing that wound, right? Retail therapy, these kind of things. But sometimes that ends up hurting us worse than we were hurt in the beginning because sometimes we end up with less money. We're unable to pay a bill or we're unable to take care of something else that we needed to take care of, or we're feeling short somewhere else, or we have regret after we give ourselves some rationalized and justified self-love. You know what I mean? And it's not really love. It's really us licking our wounds and not knowing how to heal our wounds. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, because I had two instances. The way we're going to relate to this tonight, and if you have another way of relating to this, then please let me know, because, hey, Daz from Scotland, it's good to see you. You know what? We have power outage for 4 hours. Oh my goodness, and it's raining. Well, I'm glad that you're able to get on here. Antonio, Montana. Can I get $1? I mean, can I have? So anyway, we're talking about self-love and self-sabotage, and 10 signs that fear is running your life, because a lot of people don't realize that they're running on fear when they go into self-sabotage mode. They don't realize that that is a choice based on fear. So I've got my notes here so that I can see your comments there. Ikonde Emmanuel. Hello. Raja. All right. So anyway, I wanted to create a week of distinguishing self-love from self-sabotage, 5 elements. I jump into the car to charge my phone and relax in the AC. Awesome. Yes. Avery Satterwhite from Texas. You know, that's where I'm from too. I am from Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm glad to see you here, Avery. Thank you for joining tonight from Texas. Where are you at in Texas? I'm not in Fort Worth right now. I'm near beautiful Cancun right now, and I've got the AC on too, 5 elements. Pray the more. The description of a beautiful moon shining over calm, pearly waters is still not. Oh, thank you so much. How beautiful that is. Poetry, darling. I like it. Salma. No, I'm not. Rusty Waters. Hey, Rusty. Hey. Rusty and Amy. Hello, Rusty and Amy checking in. Olivia Maynard, Houston. Woohoo! Avery Satterwhite in Waco. Excellent. Like I say, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm sitting near beautiful Cancun right now. Welcome, welcome, Texans in the house. All right. So what we're going to talk about tonight, let me know in the comments below. I have my notes here. Now, I'm not a vegan teacher. You can't, no, I can't, I am not. You know, we were just talking about being from Texas. It's hard to be vegan in Texas. I mean, but I guess there's people who can do it. You got all kinds of food in Texas. It's really good. Thank you very much, Salma. Race battle. Hello. Vike Puitpo. Hello. Thank you very much, Avery. I appreciate that. This used to be my daughter's shirt, so I guess you would call it a hand-me-up so instead of a hand-me-down. Anyway, hi, Selma. We don't talk about my dating status on here. I'm not married, but we don't my dating status. We don't talk about my age. We don't talk about religion, and we don't talk about politics. What we're going to talk about tonight is self-sabotage, and or self-love, and the 10 signs that fear is running your life. So I'm going to go ahead and get started now. I thank you so much. No race battle. I would not do that. No, I do not do casual. Thank you so much, Salma. Bradley Samuels. It's just not what the topic is. That's not what my point is getting on YouTube. It's not to talk about my age or dating status or politics or religion. We do talk about spiritual stuff sometimes because I encourage spirituality, but I like to observe and respect all faiths here. So, but the reason we're going to talk about self-love and self-sabotage is a lot of times people get confused and will rationalize themselves right into self-sabotage while they may think that they're doing self-love, but they're really just trying to heal a pain, and it usually causes more pain and regret. Okay, so I'm going to break it down, because if you don't know me on here, my name is Stacey Renee. I'm a mindset coach, and I help people to think about things that maybe we don't think about, to realize our humanness, because this is about pulling each other together in a unity and community rather than anything else, any kind of division or anything else. So that's why I know, John London, it's all about the matching. I love things to match. You're right. I've got on, and see, my earrings too. So I like the matching. All right. I'm going to, it can be an eating disorder. Yes. It could be overeating, or it could be the under eating, not eating enough. Harmony. I love that, Berke Gerverda. The harmony is my favorite word. And, this morning on Facebook. If you don't follow me on Facebook, you're welcome to. I know Bobby does with Five Elements, but is that I do like a word of the week. I do the self-esteem alphabet because a lot of times we can have better experiences if we can expand our language because we start learning how to feel the language that we want to feel. Thank you very much. Yeah, because I even got my eyeshadow matching. You can't really tell, but I got my eyeshadow matching too, John London. Thank you for noticing. Hello, Rickson Morrow, Luca Day. So, talking about that, but as the week progressed last week, because I do my coaching. If you want one-on-one coaching, I do that. And so I had some clients last week, and what I noticed was they were giving people more power than they deserved. Okay, so what does that mean? We're going to talk about that too. Is sometimes people, that's a part of self-sabotaging. And I'm going to explain that too. 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, good book for. Okay, I've looked at some of Jordan Peterson's things. Yes. Thank you, Salma. Silent Gaming. Hello, it's good to see you. So I got my notes here so I can read your comments and stay on topic. Is insecurity a bad thing? Well, it depends on how we define insecurity. Some people, Avery, may think that insecurity is humility, and humility is good. Insecurity is not so good. And I understand insecurity. I have been insecure in my life before. And sometimes anytime we're doing something new, we may have a little bit of insecurity, not knowing if we can do it right or if it's going to look good or if it's going to come out right. And these kind of things, that's normal insecurity. So you'll notice with me, I'll talk about the polarities because everything's good until it's not, and everything's bad until it's not. Insecurity is not good. And I have had insecurity, and it has traits like jealousy. It's definitely a fear. So it's a fear base. There's healthy fears and there's unhealthy fears, right? So yeah. Hello, Rodolfo. It's good to see you. Hey, Rusty and Amy, thank you very much. I'm glad. Thank you for the hearts. All right, so I'm got my notes here so I can stay on track. So the instances that were given tonight were not being able to be supported. Okay, so all right, I'm still doing this, but the direction we're taking is I had a couple of clients this week who were giving their power away. I just mentioned that. And that's an observation in itself, right? Is that instances were of not being able to be supportive because of pain even deeper than giving the power of fear over to another person, sometimes a stranger and sometimes a loved one that was longed for. So I had two instances this past week where one person is married, and so that person in a married, you're very welcome, Avery, that one person that is married, their partner cheated on them once, and so they've gone to counseling, they're doing all the work to rebuild their marriage, right? But then there's this woman that has an attraction apparently for the husband and was blowing up his phone with text, and she works in the same atmosphere, and they've gone to this, she was an instructor in his class and stuff like this. And so he felt very compromised with the tech, anyway. So long story short is the woman's trying, it triggered the fear of when her husband cheated before Avery to talk about insecurity. So it was insecurity, and it's understandable insecurity. But it doesn't mean that it's real, that it's, there's a saying about fear is false evidence appearing real. And it doesn't mean that it's a fact because that's a fear that that woman's pursuing her husband and that there's something going on. That's a real fear, but it's not a fact. There's no evidence that he's done anything wrong. So, Clayton, that's not on our topic, darling. You're welcome to stay here, but we don't talk like that on here, and we're on topic, okay? So, so it's about giving power away because she didn't want to go support her husband because this person was going to be there, and she didn't know how she would behave with that person being there. And I understand all that. I'm not dismissing that idea. But how do we be supportive? And also had another one with Father's Day. They would like to have seen their father, but they have a step parent that is hard to deal with. And so they've been estranged for a while, and they longed for their father, but the relationship has been complicated. So in one of these relationships, how to handle fear when trying to sleep, or is it the wrong moment to ask? No, VC, that's fine to ask now. I hope that I get to it, and maybe something I say here is going to help, okay? I usually breathe when I'm handling fear trying to sleep, is just breathe. Yes, Avery, thank you. I'm glad that that's helpful. So, talking about how we can give our power away to things that haven't happened yet and to people who don't deserve the power we're giving away. Because I told my client, I'm like, that person doesn't deserve the power. You're giving her exactly self love. I told her, thanks, Avery. I told her, you are giving this person way more power than she deserves, you know. And I suggested to her to go to that graduation. I said, I would go if it were me. I would go because I'm not letting anybody keep me from doing something that I want to do. And if I want to do it, I'm not letting anybody keep me from that. And sometimes some of the fears that we have, like the lady did approach her husband one time. She thought, what is, and the lady's married too. So there's some people out there who I've told y'all before that not everybody's all flowery and rainbows. There are some people who are ill-intentioned. And this woman apparently is insecure, Avery, and she needs extra attention. It's because she has a husband, but she wants to, make sure she gets attention. Sometimes there's women that will be that way with other women, and I'm sure there's men, I've heard of men that do that kind of thing too. We'll still see, that don't have that code. Women have a women code, so but not all women observe the women code. So it's just, it can be insecurities bumping up against insecurities, and that's what it is in this case. But that woman does not deserve that power. So, yes, hi Terry. Hello, sales monkey shit. So anyway, the instances were not being able to be supportive because of pain, and even deeper, given power over fear to another person. Right. So why do we do that? So what stops us from connecting is the feeling of fear on the bottom line. The feeling of fear is the bottom line, is what causes us to give our power away to these people. What are we afraid of? And I had to learn that. What am I afraid of? Y'all hear me say that all the time because that's what my coach and therapist said to me. So what stops us from connecting is that fear. So I remember having this fear also, and I was definitely giving my power away, feeling inferior, trying to gain power through punishment. Anybody in here try to gain power through punishment? Rusty Waters. This sounds so much like Fatal. I know, I remember that Fatal Attraction, Rusty Waters. I know. Yes, you're right. Like this one, and so yeah. So I told her, go ahead and go. I told her, you go to that thing and you do like this, shoulders back, chest out, and you just walk in that room. That's how I handle the other woman. Okay, So skank hunt. I don't know what that means. It sometimes can be a good thing or bad thing. It depends on what the intentions are. So it's knowing our intention and motivation and getting in line with that, but it takes a while sometimes. Yes, Rusty Waters. BC, fear is the opposite of love. I heard somewhere it is true. It is true. And we're going to be talking about that more. Thank you, BC. Exactly. It is the opposite of love. A lot of people think hate is the opposite of love, but people hate what they don't understand. And that's fear. People hate the fear of what they don't understand. So there's a saying my mom used to say, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. And so that's kind of what that is, right, y'all? Who's heard that saying in here? Don't cut off your nose to spite your face. And so what it means is when we don't do what we want to do, or we do something out of spite, right? So let me tell y'all, because I'm one of these people who I want to know, hey, Angie, it's good to see you, darling. I'm one of these people that wants to know what things mean. Avery, you've heard that? So let me tell y'all where that come from, because I like to break this down, because a lot of things that we say, like cut off your nose to spite your face, or waiting for the other shoe to fall. Hey, John London, it comes from over your parts, I think, over there in Europe, I think is how it originated. I'm going to tell y'all where that originated from, because I like to know what things mean, right? So here we go. Cutting off your nose to spite your face is an idiom describing an irrationally self-destructive act meant to punish someone else. The phrase roots are traceable to medieval folklore, where disfigurement was sometimes used as an extreme ultimate sacrifice to perfect one's virtue or defy an enemy. That's what it means. It is British, yes. Thank you, and Celeste. Anyway, thank you. So, the origins and evolution of the proverb reveal a fascinating history. Here's the history. So, this is what it really means, but the Jews did it to repent. Well, in 12th century Latin origins, the course concept first appeared in writing during the 1200s in a Latin proverb recorded by Peter of Blois. Did I say it right, John London? He wrote, "Who cuts off his nose takes poor revenge for a shame inflicted on him," warning that destructive revenge ultimately hurts the avenger. The 9th century legend, the legend of Saint Ebba, a popular legend, claims that a mother superior, Saint Ebba of Scotland, told her nuns to disfigure themselves by cutting off their noses. This was allegedly done to ward off invading Bacchants by making the nuns unappealing, thereby preserving their chastity. In the 17th century French history, the phrase took on its political context during the history of France. French accounts suggest that King Henry famously contemplated destroying the city of Paris to punish Parisians who rejected him as their king. Advisors noted that burning his own capital city would be akin to cutting off his nose to spite his face. So in 18th and 19th century modern English evolution, while the concept is ancient, the exact modern phrasing we use today did not fully appear in the English print until the 1700s and 1800s. Early 19th century English newspapers like The Guardian popularized the modern idiom as a warning against acting out of sheer destructive stubbornness. Okay, so that's where you come up with cutting off your nose to spite your face, and that's what it means, So a lot of times when we're not wanting to reach out to somebody, or we're giving another person the power, a power over us, sometimes we can act in spite and revenge, and sometimes we can inflict the pain upon ourselves. Avery. Anyways, I got it. Oh, well, thank you for jumping on here, Avery. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will subscribe. If you all haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'd like to see you come on here on Monday nights and Friday nights. And yeah. All right. So thank you for being here. All right. So getting back to the topic, but I just like to let people know where these idioms, these things come from, so that we're not giving that our power in itself. Do I know about the baker's dozen and 13 eggs? No, tell me about it, because my family owned a donut shop, Rusty. So tell me about that one. Well, they were saying that about the nuns too, Alaskan Apple. That's what they were saying the nuns did, was cut off their nose so they would be less appealing to the Vikings too. Well, hello, JB. All right. So we're getting back on topic, which is self-love versus self-sabotage. And we're going to get to the 10 ways that we are behaving out of that fear and maybe cutting off our nose to spite our face. So like I said, I had one person whose partner was graduating, and she didn't want to go to the graduation because of another person that was going to be there. So that would call her not to be able to fully support the person. So which person's more important? The person she wants to support, or the person that she didn't like, right? So 1850, Robert Knox. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Alaskan Apple. I didn't know that. And they didn't even list that in what I looked up earlier. So thank you for letting us know that. He said 1850 Scottish anthropologist Robert Knox described the Jewish feature as a large, massive, club-shaped hooked nose, 3 or 4 times larger than suits the face. Well, that wasn't very nice, was it? Thus he concluded, that's not very nice. I know you didn't say that. That was Mr. Knox, but all right. So it's about understanding those triggers. When we look at what the triggers are, is which one are we serving, right? Are we going to serve the one we don't like, or are we going to serve the one we do like? So same, with somebody else, that had this situation. So that in that case, she had a choice. She has a choice, because graduation hasn't come up yet. I encouraged her to pray about that, because her first thought is she didn't want to go, and she didn't want the person graduating to go, but it's a big moment. And so I understand the pain, but how we become empowered is doing something we've not done. So in the past, have we cut off our nose to spite our face? How are we going to be supportive? How are we going to grow? And so I encouraged her, just pray about that. And I don't tell people who or what to pray to or for, because we all have our own relationship with that. But, the higher state, the divine mind, the higher mind. So, okay. Oh, goodness. Y'all, I understand. So Avery was asking me about insecurity earlier, and she had to leave. So here's the thing: the problem is insecurity, and I'm not denying this person's fear, but we don't know if the fear is real. Here's the confusion, as I've known it before. If it were me and I were to go past would my fear of conflict, past my fear of conflict and confrontation, to fear how I would react if the women got in our business. So what I've come to know is that fears are real. The fear is real, but they're not always facts, is what I'm trying to say. Is the fears aren't always facts. Like I said, fear is false evidence appearing real. So facing our fears is important. Half of them, though, never come to fruition. Okay, so the other woman was getting way too much of my client's power. I don't know if she's going to this or not. She's praying about it. But I wanted her to gain other evidence and to find the power in what she wants. See, because we have to be willing to step out of our fear to get empowerment. Because we can't get empowerment by, being in our fear. So I can't tell someone what is the right or wrong thing to do. I only support them in their choices. So I can't tell her what's the right or wrong thing to do. I did say I would go to that thing. So I used to try to control also through my insecurities. Thank you, Angie. And it's a lot of work, and it holds us back from fun, and it hinders the process is what it does. Okay, my glove, it's good to see you. I went and liked your post. I saw your post and I liked them. Thank you for posting. All right. So it's second guessing. It's a lot of work. It holds back fun, and then it doesn't process it. It doesn't fix it. In fact, it's just second guessing. So this is not self-love. This is not self-love when you give your power away to somebody you don't love. That's not self-love. It's self-preservation is not always self-love when you just don't want to deal with somebody. So the other case is someone who's estranged from their dad here at Father's Day and misses that relationship. And it's not uncommon that step-parents compromise parents' relationships with their kids. And some are adults. So it's sad when this happens. Also, again, I can't tell someone to override it, their feelings about a step-parent. What I can tell people to do is what you want. Just do what it is you want to do. So how many times do we hold back our love? When we do this, we're not only holding it back from someone else, we hold it back from ourselves. So trying to stay on track. I had to learn this. Okay, so here's my example. Thank you, Avery. I'm so glad that you subbed. I appreciate that. And I hope to see you again. I'll be on here Wednesday morning and then Friday night and then Sunday mornings. Okay. So I look forward to seeing you again. So one time, I was seeing a man, I call him my daddy catalyst. And so I was seeing this man and we broke up. And his mother had been dying. So we had both, when I get past my fear of confrontation, Rodolfo says it's bad news for me and my blood pressure, and someone might leave boo-hooing. Uh-oh. Well, are you breathing, Rodolfo? We got to breathe before and get in our right mind before we say something, because sometimes it can come out harsh and we can upset people. Was Wasabi Diwal. Hello. Okay. So anyway, this guy was a catalyst for my growth, but we split up. But his mom was dying, and we'd been taking her to church. We'd been planning her death. She'd been telling us the songs she wanted and all of this. Well, we were broke up, and I passed out under pressure before. It was really scary, but I'm good now. Ooh, I hear you. I love those hearts. Thank you for posting the hearts. I love seeing the hearts. So anyway, this day his mom was in the hospital, and this one day, I'm very intuitive. So one day I felt like I really want to go see his mom, but we were split up and I didn't want to make him upset either, but his mom and I were friends. So I asked my coach, I said, I really want to go see his mom because I just feel like I need to go see her, but I don't want to upset him. She said, well, do you want to go see her? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, go see her then. So that was such a pivotal thing for me because, and then I went to see her and I carried an amethyst crystal with me to go see her because she was dying. We knew she'd been dying. We'd been taking her to church with us. We'd been doing stuff and stuff, but this was, she was dying. She was in the hospital. Dang, darling, it's good to see you. So, as it turned out, I took this amethyst crystal with me and she was not conscious. She was not aware. And I held her hand and held the amethyst crystal in her hand and just sat there, and she'd told me the song she wanted to hear, when she passed away. And so I was singing it, and when it was a release and I let go and let the spirit run my life and my heart's open wide. So anyway, I was singing this song and the nurse came in and told us that she was shutting down, told me, not us, because it was me and her, and she was unconscious, but told me that she was shutting down. And so I asked the nurse if she would call the old boyfriend, the ex lover. And so she called him, and I called the minister to come up there. So the minister came up there, and some other people came up there, and we were just singing, that song. We were standing around her hospital bed singing that song that she had told me that she wanted to sing. Her son came, of course, too. Yes. But here's the thing: was she woke up. She woke up. And she said, I just thought I had a spiritual awakening. So she wakes up and they apparently, you can wake up and get this like recharge, right before somebody passes, they can have a roundup again. They can come around. And so she did. She came around. She goes, I thought I heard angels singing and stuff. And we were all just real happy. And we all got to tell her goodbye and celebrate her. And I'm not saying she died right then because I left before she died. She died within 2 hours after I left, but it was important that I was there, and so sometimes we hold ourselves back when we could have an important space in a place. So this is what I mean about not playing small and not cutting off our nose to spite our face, because we have a purpose and a point, and there's a reason for us, and you have a light within you too. And I had that light in me, and I'm not just saying I was the only one, but I was there. I know, right? We got to tell her goodbye because if I wouldn't have followed my instinct, because there's sometimes when you all want to do something, but you're scared of what somebody else is doing or what somebody else is thinking or if there's going to be a reaction. So I'm just saying that, gauge it with somebody right before the end. Yes, yes, John London. Yes. And so we never know. So if we hold ourselves back, we could miss something. That was great for us to get to experience that. It was great for her to get to experience that. And I'm glad that I didn't miss it because I would have felt guilty had I not followed my instinct, right? If I wouldn't have called my coach and said, hey, what do you think? And she's like, if you want to go, go. And I did. And so I don't have any guilt because if I wouldn't have gone, I would have had guilt. So, yeah, Jacob. They offered me like 5. So I guess you regret that. Yeah. Sometimes we can't keep living with regrets. I know. Thank you, John London. It was, but that's just, I'm saying that because I didn't cut off my nose to spite my face. I didn't go because I thought, oh, well, he's going to get upset with me if I go. Because I went with what my conviction was, what I felt convicted to do. So sometimes we have these things, but we second guess ourselves. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And he was there when this happened, and he was very grateful that I did. He was very grateful that I went up there. So I would have made up a story that he didn't want me to be there, and I didn't. That wasn't true. So we can't punish adults without punishing ourselves. The same with, I said, we can't, we can't not love other, we have to love ourselves before we can love others, but we can't punish adults without punishing ourselves. So we need to learn to honor ourselves and others. Thank you, Lotto. So this doesn't mean that there are not reasons for us to be estranged, because sometimes there are legitimate reasons to be estranged from people. I have clients too that they may have a narcissistic parent and they can't have a relationship with them. I've had clients that their parents actually verbally abuse them. And so you do not have to subject yourself to verbal abuse. Mm-mm. So I'm not saying that, but we can grieve the relationship that we had hoped to have so that we can move forward. I know for myself, when I felt like my dad was emotionally unavailable, I found a dad that was more available that I called Pops, when I was growing up, that influenced my life, that would listen to me and talk to me. And so there are people still yet that we can find as surrogates, because you are, just because one person's not willing to hear you doesn't mean that you're not meant to be heard. Mr. Sweet, I got ignored the audacity. I want to process the firm. Okay. Hello, Mr. Sweet. This isn't about the World Cup today, but you're welcome to be here, Sir Son. But we don't talk about the World Cup, and we don't talk about the Nazis or any of that. So you're welcome to stay, but that's not what we're talking about. So I'm not going to address those comments if you're not on topic, okay? There's too many people here waiting to hear what's on topic, and I can't get distracted. So anyway, we've talked a lot about boundaries, and if people disregard or disrespect our boundaries repeatedly, that may cause estrangement. And it takes two to heal. If there is only one, it most likely will not work. People may stay together with a longing or suffering, wishing and grieving that things are different than they are, and that's not self-love. That's not self-love. So, Lotto, okay, well, thank you. Oh, okay, well, thank you, Mr. Sweet. All right, so self-sabotage. If you want to know what self-sabotage is, see, a lot of times we think we're giving self-love when we're rationalizing and justifying our way into self-sabotage. What would be the best if I can't avoid negative people? I tried to approach them open-hearted, but felt very bad afterward. Every time I would like to be still nice, but also protect myself. That's very good, because harmony, VC. So it's like doing what you want. If you don't have, if you feel like the energy is negative over there, just smiling, saying hello. Sometimes that's what the word cordial. That's just, sometimes we just can only be cordial with negative people. I know when I've been around negative people, not to absorb the energy for myself, is that I would pray, and I don't, pray in religious terms. Sometimes we know prayers that we can just chant. Sometimes, but it's about focusing on something else other than the negativity, right? Because giving negativity our energy is, again, a part of self-sabotage, because it can drain us. And so we don't want to focus on, I'm walking on eggshells because these people are negative over there, and I feel like if I'm too happy, they're going to be upset. So it's just about still being happy with yourself and what you want, rather than giving them your energy, because there are energy vampires. So self-sabotage is doing things that are not aligned with what you want. It can't be just physical. Like, it's not your responsibility to cheer those people up and make them be more positive people, because some people are committed to being negative. That's unfortunate, but it's a sad, cold, hard facts. So, but there are people that we can cheer up. Okay. So self-sabotage is doing things that aren't aligned with what we want. And it cannot just be physical. It can be mental. It can be emotional, financial. Even people may spiritually beat themselves up or be upset with God because, well, the obvious, self-sabotage is slipping into addiction, whether it be food, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, shopping, even chaos. Control, drama can be addictions too. So this is where we get into self-sabotage. It's not just, the physical, although food, some people want comfort when they're, and when they're dealing with something that's hard. So they may say, I'm just going to give myself a brownie, or I'm just going to treat myself to this. Well, that's self-sabotage, because they're not healing the problem. They're escaping the problem. And I understand the rationalization and justification may be, I'm going to do something nice for myself, because I used to do that too. There's transference of addiction, because we will seek comfort. If we're addicted to one thing, we'll seek comfort with something else. So once I worked on the alcohol addiction, then I started a shopping addiction to seek comfort, because I didn't like conflict and confrontation. And I thought that, conflict and confrontation was going to be a lot worse than it was. I love you too, Grinchy. Okay, Five Elements. I don't know when you said see you later, so You are very welcome, VC. I hope it was helpful, Eagle. No, you should run yourself away from negativity. You just don't want to absorb negativity. Avery, you have both mental and physical physical sabotage. Yeah. So it's funny how we can rationalize our self-sabotage. It's crazy how we can play mind games with ourselves. And that's why, as a mindset coach, I try to help us to just, have another way to look at it, because that's what it took for me. Because, I didn't know another way until somebody suggested another way to look at it. So, yeah, are we slipping into and trying to escape from our self-sabotage? Is like when I did the shopping and I didn't like conflict and confrontation, I would get upset, but I didn't know how to. I understand 5 elements. I hope you get a blessed and regenerated rest. But I didn't know how to comfort myself in a healthy way. So I would be like, oh, I'm going to go buy myself something nice for my pain and trouble because I didn't, know how to set a boundary. I didn't know how to set a boundary, Avery. It's hard. A lot of people don't know what boundaries are. A lot of people think boundaries are cutting people off, issuing ultimatums, or, just ghosting people or things like this, going into that fight and freeze in our central nervous system. That's your central nervous system reacting. That's not a boundary. So a lot of people don't know the difference. A boundary is self-love. When our central nervous system is going off, a lot of times we don't have that relationship with our central nervous system. That's why at the end of these, we always do the breathing exercise so that we can kind of get back in our body, out of our mind and back in our body, and notice, what am I feeling? Because your words are expressions of your thoughts and your feelings are expressions of your body language. When people don't want to do something, when they're not motivated, they say, I don't feel like it, right? So understanding what a great deal that your feelings play on your body and what you'll do. And what we want to do is oftentimes when we self-sabotage, we just sit on the couch, we do something to where we're just going to sit still, be sitting there and not get anything done, and then feel regret and self-loathing afterwards. We regret our decision. So yeah. Oh my gosh, Lord have mercy. I'm just looking at the comments. You're jealous of all the chads they get, the women, and it's not fair. Well, I think it's people. A lot of times, women, they want people with depth and with personality, and that can talk and carry on a conversation. That aren't looking for something casual, or they're somebody who's not manipulating. And I'm not saying all men do that, because that happens for men with women too. But you can't just have expectations that you just meet somebody. We have to get to know people. So when we assume we know what someone is thinking, okay, so this is an example of self-sabotage. When we assume that we know what someone is thinking, some of us grew up with parents or family members that would say, well, they think this and they think that, but they really don't know what people are thinking. I don't know. I had to learn, I don't know what people are thinking. So we don't know what people are thinking. And if we want to know what people are thinking, we have to ask them, so, hey, how are you doing? And if we don't feel comfortable asking, then we are obviously understand we're making up a story. I used to make up stories all the time. I learned how to make up stories. When we've suffered childhood trauma or grown through childhood trauma, and we've had, communication that was dysfunctional, we just make some stuff up and it's still dysfunctional because that's what we saw. That's what we heard. That was what our perceptions were fed. So we're trying to make sense out of things that don't make sense. So we create these stories, and they're stories. I was talking to Angie earlier today, and it was like, um, when I was talking to Angie, I was talking about riding in the car with people and how we can be in the cars, and so many people get angry at people on the street thinking that it's personal when somebody cuts you off, or it's personal if they want to go faster. And people will get in arguments on the street inside their cars with their heads talking to other people. And I used to do it too, thinking, oh, they're trying to get ahead of me or whatever. And then I had to learn, that they're just trying to get where they're going. They're trying to get from point A to point B also. And that's what I'm trying to do. And sometimes people are in a bigger hurry than I am, and let them. So The thing is I was riding in a car with a man one day and he's like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Because he got cut off. And I said, "I see somebody in a car." Because that's really what we know is when we're out there and we're making up these stories about these people in cars, is that's really just another person in a car. We don't know what they're thinking. We don't know what's going on. I saw that, Jacob. I bet that was disappointing. All right. So, mental self-sabotage is when we think less of ourselves than we are. This is when we think that somebody's thinking something about us that's less than pleasing. There's a part of ourself that is taking that on because do you notice how your body language gets when you think someone's thinking something of you, that you may get like this cutting off your nose despite your face thing, or you may be wanting to buck up to them because you think that they're thinking something that you don't know that they're thinking. You see, but it can interrupt your pattern, what's going on in your body, what's going on in your space. And even that is allowing something like that in our mind when we don't know. That's a sense of self-sabotage. Is that making sense? Thank you, VC. Thank you for, yes, because that's not who you are. You're giving somebody else the power once again to make you feel a certain way. And that is self-sabotage. Hi, Lonely Hill Star. Thank you. So that's one way that we self-sabotage. And the obvious, like I said, is slipping back into the addiction. If we go to food for comfort, if we go to drugs for peace, if we go to cigarettes to calm us down, and I'm not saying I don't care if you smoke or whatever. Not everybody that does those things is abusing it. So please know that I know that. So, but people do still slip into shopping and chaos and drama. Those can be addictions too, because that's what they're used to. And if that's not what they're experiencing at the time, it can feel very uncomfortable. So it's about finding comfort, right? So when we assume, like I said, we know what people are thinking, that's the mental part of it. We may even make up stories that cause anxiety. So then the emotion the emotion that will go along with is feeling depressed, agitated, confused based on things that we don't know. Based on things that we don't know. Financial is when we slip into retail therapy because we have no words and we don't want to feel feelings. We just want to feel better, but don't know what to do. So sometimes we just buy something to make us feel better. We may be overspending and then regretting that we spent so much. Maybe we're afraid that our needs won't be met. And even if that was what it was, that's what we're trying to do, is to get our needs met when we're looking for things outside of ourselves. But the things that we need is inside of ourselves. We need to love ourselves, self-love. Those are how we mind screw ourselves with self-sabotage, right? We're looking for something outside of ourselves to make us feel better. Thank you, Beans Company. Hey, Fabo from France. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm sitting near beautiful Cancun. John London, I try hard not to slip back into smoking for stress relief. I know it's hard. It's hard. And I'm not saying, because not everybody, I have a friend who before she goes to bed every night, she smokes a cigarette. I don't think that she has a problem with smoking, you know, because I can't smoke like that. If I smoke it, every time I do something like that, I'm going to be balls to the wall. It's going to be like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I don't half-ass do something. I go all the way. So I have to watch myself. That's why I've learned a lot from making my mistakes. So here's the deal. When we buy into the instances lifting above, like I was saying earlier, about other people's perceptions of us, thinking that we know what they're thinking about us, or any of the other things that have caused us the depression, the anxiety, and all of this by worrying about what someone else is thinking about us or what somebody else is doing, or giving other people our power. And we believe that that's our reality, and that it's out of our hands, and that it can become disastrous because we think that it's out of our hands and that that's our reality. So we're not loving ourselves when this happens. We're letting our anxiety build up. We're letting the depression build down. We're letting these things happen with our body and not being in control of it, because all you can control is what's in your little hula hoop, as they say. You can't control those other people and their thoughts and perceptions, and it doesn't even matter what they think or what have you, unless they're your boss or something like that and you need to make a living, but because if we're acting with our integrity, I always talk about us getting to our integrity, because if we're acting in our integrity, then we're not making mistakes. So I talked about earned guilt and unearned guilt last week. And sometimes there's unearned guilt and we perceive that somebody's thinking things about us or that they think we've done something wrong and we don't know that. And when we check with ourselves, it's like, did I do something wrong? No, I didn't do something wrong. So all I know is that life is fleeting, and not to allow yourself to be abused in any way, not by your own mind and not by anybody else. It will be self-esteem killer is what it is. And toxicity is not good. But we want to live in peace and have confidence doing it, right? So don't allow someone to take your power. John London, I try hard. Okay, so the ways to keep your power the most is to let go of dark imaginings. When you catch yourself in those dark imaginings of what you think other people think about you, or what you're worried about this happening or that happening, and it hasn't happened yet. And about the sleep that was asked earlier, I breathe because can I do anything about it when I'm trying to go to bed? Mm-mm. That's called ruminating, obsessing. And am I ruminating or obsessing about something? I don't need to ruminate or obsess. I need to sleep. So I do my breathing exercises like we do at the end of these, and I fall back to sleep many times. If I can't, I go outside and I pray about it and look at the stars and the moon and things that are a lot bigger than me and my problems. You know what I mean? So ask yourself, what do you really want in the moment? And learn how to focus on what you want and quit giving so much energy to what you don't want, giving your power to what you don't want. So if you have a slip, just forgive yourself and make amends if you need be. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. So self-love isn't always comfortable, and self-sabotage doesn't always look destructive. Okay, y'all? Sometimes self-sabotage disguises itself as protection. So what we've talked about and what we're talking about is exploring the difference between making decisions from fear and making decisions from self-love. Yes, John London, it is. I feel so much better after I do it, because I just go out there and just be like, let these obsessions go away from me. I know I can't do anything at this time, and I need to sleep, or just doing something that's declaring things are bigger than me, and that's just maybe not even real. So we talked about making decisions from fear and making decisions from self-love. And through real life coaching examples and personal stories, we'll look at the insecurity, the overthinking, the catastrophizing, and giving our power away that quietly controls our lives, right? So what we're going to learn, we're heading into now, is what you're going to learn is the difference between self-preservations and genuine self-love. Why fear feels real but isn't always based on facts, and how insecurity can cause us to lose control, withdraw, or avoid important moments, right? Like the graduation. So the many forms of self-sabotage, the mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual. So when I told you, when I can't sleep, I go and pray or whatever, get in the spirituality of things that are bigger than me. So practical ways to reclaim your power and make decisions aligned with peace instead of fear. Okay. So true self-love isn't about controlling other people. It's about honoring yourself. So it's setting healthy boundaries, facing fear with courage, and choosing the life that you truly want. So the key distinctions between self-love and self-sabotage are this. Self-love acts from peace. Self-sabotage acts from fear. Self-love gives yourself permission to love fully. Self-sabotage holds back love because of fear of rejection and pain. I think I missed Rodolfo's comment, Viola. What did he say? All right, well, let me get back to topic. All right, self-love sets healthy boundaries. And then self-sabotage uses control to feel safe. Oh, yeah, Rodolfo's really good about that. Thank you, Viola. He is. Rodolfo's good. Thank you, Rodolfo. Don't let it get your nervous system acting up. Thanks, Rusty Waters. So, thanks, Viola. So, self-love sets healthy boundaries, and self-sabotage uses control to feel safe. Gives ultimatums, tells people what are you going to do, and is trying to make people do what they want them to do so that they feel safe. Self-love accepts uncertainty, and self-sabotage catastrophizes and imagines the worst case scenarios. That is self-sabotage. That's the mental part, right? So self-love trusts evidence. So we look at what's real. Do we know this? Did this person say this? Do we know this? Or are we making it up? Right? So self-love trusts evidence, and self-sabotage believes stories created by insecurity. Self-love supports others without losing ourselves. Self-sabotage withdraws or avoids because of fear. You ever, maybe you've experienced something before and somebody else couldn't enjoy that for you. That's self-sabotage. What they were doing was they were self-sabotaging and they couldn't be happy for you. And that feels bad, doesn't it? But don't take that on. Support yourself and support those you can support. Okay, that's self-love makes choices aligned with your values. What do I want? What's important to me? Like in the morning, I get up and I set intentions when I get on here. If I can help at least one person, when I get on social media, if I can help at least one person to think differently, because a lot of times people don't understand their humanness. They're just trying so hard to be perfect. And we're all perfectly imperfect. We're human beings and human doings. And so sometimes we have bad days. Sometimes we're off. Sometimes we have to make an amends, and sometimes we need to set boundaries. So self-love again makes choices aligned with your values, and self-sabotage makes choices to avoid uncomfortable emotions. So self-love builds self-respect, and self-sabotage reinforces self-doubt. It's that negative self-dialogue. So self-love forgives mistakes and learns our own mistakes. Even we don't beat ourselves up where you're like, okay, that's where an amends comes in. As I regret that this happened, I regret that I did this, and I'm going to try to do better. I see where I made an error. I see where I misunderstood. I apologize. I misunderstood that. you know so I have done that before. One time somebody was telling me something, one of my friends, she was texting me and I was working on notes or something on my computer, and I wasn't really fully paying attention to her because I was doing these notes here. And she said, I told you in that message. And I apologize. I totally missed it because I had two things going on at one time and I didn't see what you said there. You know, we're human. So I said, I apologize. I will not be trying to read your messages and do my notes at the same time in the future. I won't look at your message, until I get done or what have you, or I will stop. But yeah, because I like to be fully present. So the main, what we really want to know is that fear feels real, but it isn't always true. Okay. So one of the biggest lessons is learning the difference between feeling fear and accepting fear as a fact. I had to learn that I was making some stuff up. Some of my fears were made up, it wasn't really, hadn't happened yet. It was just a fear and I had no control over it. Thinking about it and obsessing on it and ruminating over it and keeping myself awake did not solve the problem. So two is giving your power away. When someone else's behavior controls your peace, your choices, or your happiness, you've given them power they were never meant to have. So self-love asks, what do I want and to choose regardless of what they do? Hey, Jen, it's good to see you. Kelly, you get nervous about pretty girls, you just walk away. Just got home. I'm going to come in, sit down, and shut up and listen. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you're here, Jen. Well, hopefully the breathing exercise at the end of this will help you, Kel, to build up your confidence and to ask yourself, well, why don't I have confidence? And not to beat yourself up, but to learn more, to have self-awareness. Because the fear of being around pretty girls, what would confidence look like? And not, a lot of times, like we see these movies where guys are a jerk when they're trying to act like they're confident around a pretty girl. Viola. I had a manager who did want me on her team. She made up things and shouted at me in front of others and ignored it for nearly 2 years, but it had shattered your confidence. Yeah. I hope that you won't give her your power. You probably, if you didn't go, hopefully she's not, I guess, is she still your manager, Viola? So, when someone's behavior controls your peace, your choices, or your happiness, you've given them power they were never meant to have. I'm waiting to see if you're still with them. So, self love asks, what do I want to choose regardless of what they do? You're still there? Can you go to another department or what have you? I know that now a lot of times now people need to hold on to their jobs. I know what you were saying. But I had to leave a job because I couldn't. I was, it was toxic and it was unethical and everything like that. And I didn't want to work in a toxic, unethical place. And so I've struggled. Yes, the bills. So just praying. I don't know what kind of, I'm not a religious person. I don't tell people who or what to pray to, but I am religious in my own religious thing, my own practices. You know what I mean? And so I've got my own relationship with my own source, and I don't tell anybody else who or what to believe. But I do know that for me, having a great deal of faith helps me. And sometimes I just have to, maybe affirmations and mantras while you're working so you don't give your power away or think about what she's doing, and telling her that's not nice. When I've had people be verbally abusive to me, I just say to them, because how can you get in trouble for saying, well, that's not nice? You that's that's not very nice. And I have told them before, this hurt my feelings. Now, what they did when I said, this hurt my feelings, they're like, well, if that hurts your feelings, or if that made you sad, then you need to da 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 da. And that wasn't very nice either. And I had to leave that job. That was the job that I left. Rusty Waters, I'm 60 years old, and we care for my mother who was not used to the new world. I know that's hard for moms. My mom's older too. I believe in a thing called love too, rising to shine. John London. I left my last job for similar reasons. Faith over fear. Great advice as always, Stacy. Thank you, John London. Yes, yes. Faith over fear. Because I used to have a plaque in my bathroom that says worry ends where faith begins, because I got to where I felt like if I stayed, I was going to be selling my soul. And again, it's what do we give our power to? This company didn't pay a bunch of us, and a lot of people are up in arms and they're doing a lot of things, but I'm trying not to give that company even my power, because I am so fortunate to be here with you good people that I'd rather be here with you good people than focusing on some BS. You know what I mean? Kel, who said you're ugly? That's not very nice. If you're saying that to yourself or somebody else saying that, that's not very nice. Hello, Stephen Boy from Scotland. She's jaded wasted. It's good to see you. Thank you, darling. You are very welcome, Viola. I hope that helps. So 3, self-preservation isn't always self-love. Avoiding difficult situations can sometimes be wise, but sometimes avoidance is simply fear wearing the mask of protection. Ask yourself, am I protecting my peace or protecting my fear? Oh, thank you, John Landon. So 4, love requires courage. The world says it to you. Does it really say that? See, I had to learn that. Hey, Mama. So I had to learn to say that. When I was working on my codependency, Kel, I would be thinking that people were thinking or saying things. And this is how I learned that I was making stories up. And then my sponsor in codependency would say to me, Stacy, when I would tell her, well, they think this or they think, she'd say, Stacy, did they say that? And I'd be like, no. And she'd be like, well, then you don't know. So even if people do say that, sometimes people are not very nice in themselves. And I hate that somebody would say that to you, because there are your people out there. Not everybody is our people, Kel, but there are some people out there that are your people. And we're glad that you're here. Rusty Waters. Hey, this is Rusty's wife, Amy. Hey, Amy. I was going to start off with understanding the leaving of the job thing, but the previous comment stopped me in my tracks. Yeah. Uh, Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Rusty or Amy. I appreciate that. Glad that you're here. So, in 4, love requires courage. Whether it's attending a graduation, visiting someone before they die, reaching out to someone you love. Sometimes self love means acting despite fear rather than because of it, you know? So self sabotage has many faces. It's not just addiction, it can look like overthinking, assuming the worst, negative self talk, emotional withdrawal, people pleasing, overspending, trying to control others, constant anxiety, living in imagined disasters, and punishing yourself for being imperfect. We are all perfectly imperfect. So, the best question to ask yourself, instead of asking, what am I afraid of? Ask, what would love choose right now? What would love choose if I was acting from love? And learning to love ourselves is very important. A lot of us learned how to love other people, but didn't learn how to love ourselves. So, the question alone changes everything. As I reflected on these, conversations this week, I realized many of us think we're practicing self-love when we're actually making those decisions from fear. So here's the 10 signs that fear is running your life. Okay. So, yeah. 1 is you give your power away. Someone else's actions, opinions, or choices determine your peace of mind. That's self-sabotage. 2 is you avoid situations because of what might happen. You let imagined outcomes keep you from experiences that matter to you. 3, you confuse fear with facts. Your emotions feel real, but they aren't always evidence of reality. So 4, you try to control other people. Instead of managing your own emotions, you try to manage someone else's behavior to feel safe. 5, you hold back love. Whether it's the fear of rejection, the conflict, or of getting hurt, you stop yourself from expressing love and support. 6, now these are all signs of self-sabotage. So if you're new, just coming on. 6 is you create stories that increase anxiety. You assume that others are thinking or imagining the worst without evidence. So 7, Kel, your voice isn't kind. You criticize yourself. You believe you're not enough, or you compare yourself to others. That's self-sabotage too. That's self-sabotaging behavior. Thoughts. 8, you escape instead of healing. Whether it's food, alcohol, shopping, work, drama, or another distraction, you numb difficult emotions instead of facing them. 9, your choices don't match what you truly want. I've had people tell me that they want their partner to hug them or hold them, or that they want to feel safe, but yet when their partner goes to hug them or hold them, they push them away. And they say, well, not until this, not until that. And that's more of a control. It doesn't make sense. Hi, JR. How are you? It's good to see you. We're almost done, but you're here in time for the breathing. So I think I just said that 9, your choices don't match what you truly want. You long for connection, peace, or growth, but fear leads you to make choices that move you further away from them. 10, you forget to ask yourself what love would choose. What would love choose? Instead of asking what aligns with your values, you react from fear, insecurity, or old wounds. The opposite of self-sabotage isn't perfection. It's self-love. So, self-love doesn't mean you never feel afraid. It means fear no longer gets to make your decisions is all. So, thinking about as we go about this week about fears not making my decisions and what would love do, right? I hope that this has been helpful for you all. Hi, Elijah Heiser. So I do have a good moderator. I sure do. Thank you, Mama. So I hope that this has been helpful for you all this evening. In closing, I just want to say that self-love it's not about never being afraid. It's about refusing to let that fear make your decisions. And every time you choose peace over panic, truth over imagination, love over control, you take your power back. So not giving those things outside of you power. Ask yourself today, am I giving my power away? Or am I living, I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. Am I living from the person I truly want to become? Am I really being who I want to be? Or am I behaving based on what other people are doing, what I perceive other people are doing out there, like the coworkers and things? So fear may knock, but love gets to answer. How about that? So if I choose, if I choose this, the 10 signs, I want to choose, the one in the words, just choosing what you want, choosing the signs that you want. If you're going to sleep, if you're ruminating, what are those signs? So I hope that those signs have helped you. Self-love, it does sound slightly vulgar. Oh, Rodolfo. Hey, Digger Nick. So, what sounds vulgar about it? We've got a few minutes. What sounds vulgar? Is it something because it's not learned yet? So we're going to dive deeper into this on Wednesday. Was there anything in this for you all that are here? Is there anything in this that would help you in the deeper dive on this on Wednesday morning or on Friday night? Because what I do is I pick a topic for the week. And this one was self-love and self-sabotage, and the self-sabotage and giving your power away to people outside of yourself, because a lot of people aren't running on what they truly want. And so it's really about learning and discerning, what do I want? And, are these people really thinking about me that I think that they're thinking about me? And half the time, the people that we think are thinking things about us aren't even thinking about us. Hi, Rabbi Ryan. So staying in my own business, this is where I had to learn. Thank you, Rodolfo. This is where I had to learn how to stay in my own business, is not trying to, make stuff up about other people and get in their heads. It's a hard enough job to stay in my own head. Do y'all know how many thoughts we have going on in our mind in a day? There are so many thoughts, so much data in our brain. It's like your cell phone, all those numbers in your cell phone that you haven't called in 10 years. You got this kind of data in your brain. Thank you, Rusty Waters and Amy. I appreciate y'all being here. So great to see you here. Thank you for being here. Are you going to breathe with us? We're going to breathe here in a few moments. 70,000 thoughts. Thank you, JR. Yes. So we have all those thoughts. And so choose the ones that serve you. Don't let your thoughts take control over you. Choose the ones that you want to have. I have to stay focused. I'm not where I want to be yet, financially wise, and all these other things. But I know each day with the things that I do, I'm getting there, because I can't just bewitch myself into where I want to be just exactly right now. Everything's a part of practice and development. We talked about that on yesterday. Was it yesterday or Friday night? I start getting everything confused, but everything's a practice and development. Our characters. Version by Dusty Springfield. Oh, The Windmills of My Mind. Good song. Let me write it down then, Rodolfo. I write it down. Windmills of My Mind. Thank you. All right. Y'all ready to breathe? I sure appreciate y'all being here tonight. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to this channel. And I'm just so grateful for you all being here and for all of your shares this evening. I always look forward to seeing you all when I get to come on here. It makes my heart so happy. So, Rodolfo, it's how our thoughts, yes. And so we can let our thoughts control us, or we can control our thoughts, right? And so choose the ones that are going to be beneficial to us, that are going to help us to get where we want to be, rather than giving other people our power. Because so many times we feel defeated and we're not. It's just that we may feel like somebody else has our power. Viola, are you still here? I hope this was helpful for you. All right. Thanks, John London. You are up late, but I'm so glad you're here. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. So we're going to breathe. If you're new here, what we do is we take 5 breaths. We breathe this together. So we're going to breathe in love and release fear, okay? Somebody put something in the comments, JR. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That makes my night. I'm going to sleep well tonight because every time I get to see y'all, I get so happy, and I sleep well. Okay. So we take 5 breaths. We take a deep breath in. Just do your best. Take a deep breath in. Fill up your tummy. Your shoulders will rise. Look how confident you look. You'll get air down your throat, into your body. These are regenerating breaths. They go into your cells and they regulate you. So your heartbeat's going to be good. Your respiratory system and your digestive system are all going to calm down. Your central nervous and autonomic system will calm down, and you will feel safe and secure. Okay, no fear, safe and secure. You are very welcome, JR. All right. So let's just take a deep breath in. We're going to do 5. Breathe in real, full, and then we're going to hold it for 4 counts if you can, but just whatever feels comfortable, and then release gently and slowly out of your mouth. Here we grow. Take a deep breath in. Hold it. And release. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. Release. Just 2 more. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. Last one. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. All right. How y'all feeling? Is that good? All right. I want to thank you all so much for being here this evening. And Angie, thank you for moderating this evening. I appreciate you. And beautiful mama, like Carol Burnett, thank you for being here. And I want to thank you all, John London, JR, Rodolfo, Rusty and Amy, and Rabbi Rahan, Digger Neck, and yeah, thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Am I missing anybody? I don't know if they're still here. Kel, Viola. Yeah. And John London, thank you so much. I think I said you. Surely I did. Always love seeing you here. Thank you so much. 5 Elements Infinity. I think he's gone. Okay. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you, and I hope that you all get blessed and regenerated rest. You ready to go to sleep now, John London? Viola, you are very welcome. Thank you. I'm glad you joined too. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I'm going to be back on here Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, but then I'll be back Friday night, okay? All right, Mama, I stay hydrated. I love you. All right. You're all zenned out, ready to go to sleep? Excellent. Okay, Kel, I hope this was helpful. Tell yourself good thoughts, and y'all don't let anybody's outside there hijack your brain. Okay? All right. Lots of love to y'all. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you.